What's going on, guys? BladeZilla here, and today we are taking a look at a very special release from Shirogorov. This is their 111 Aquatic Deep Sea in Vanax. There's a lot going on with this one. I can't even wait to talk about it. It's been a long time coming, and ever since the 111 series started, it was first kind of announced, the Element series of the 111, and I was kind of curious, are we going to see a Vanax Aquatic just like the last? And those answers are finally here. Gorgeous, gorgeous knife. Am I zoomed out enough for this one? I don't know if I am. It's a big knife, as you can kind of see, with a unique bead on it. With that Vanax blade, we've got an absolute gorgeous one to talk about today. And I will tell you in advance, I apologize if I run long on this one. I'm very excited about it, which I hope comes across in the video, despite my 3 hours of sleep because of this child beside me. All right, guys, as a reminder, check out BladeZilla.ca. There we go, in Canada. Lots of good stuff, including brand new, solar from Shiro and Igor Olyanikov. Really, really cool Quantum solar system. Sick knife. Some Koenigs, some Anzos, some Shiro stuff, all kinds of CKF, ProTech, Microtech, Chavez, Riet, TRM, all kinds of really, really great stuff on BladeZilla.ca. But we're not here to talk about BladeZilla.ca in Canada. We're here to talk about this Shirogorov 111 Aquatic. And I think they're calling it the Deep Sea. I think it's called the Aquatic Deep Sea, or the 111 Deep Sea Aquatic, whatever you want to call it. I'm calling it an absolute gorgeous knife that is a very nice cherry on top for the Elemental series of the 111s for 2025. So where to start on this? Oh boy, Well, I think we should start with measurements. We're going to talk a lot about all kinds of little features and benefits and all kinds of little things. So I guess let's start with some measurements and kind of see what makes the 111 called the 111. If it is your first time seeing Shirogorov or seeing the the Elemental series of the 111s. So measurements, we are coming in at a robust 9 3/4, it looks like, overall length to the end of that back spacer there. Blade length of 4 1/4 sharp, or 4 3/8, almost 4 1/2 to the center of that choil. 111 being, it is 111 millimeters. I was about to say milliliters. 111 millimeter long blade. You can see my exhaustion is kind of creeping in right now, and I apologize. But 111 mil blade, really, really good size. Not, some states I think aren't allowed them, while others it doesn't really matter. In Canada, not really a problem here so much, but you're looking at that 4-inch plus blade, 4 1/4, and lo and behold, Vanax. Super, super cool. Vanax 37. Oh, it's just gorgeous. Handle length, I didn't think I got that. Let's just grab that real quick with it closed so we can kind of get it a little more accurate. 5 and a little over 5 1/2, maybe 5 5/8, which might seem like a lot, but compared to like an F95, it's a really negligible difference in terms of in-pocket feel for a 111. So as Metal Complex says, it's essentially a pocket sword. And you know what? Absolutely, it's a sword. It's a beast. So, you know what? All things equal, let's start with the Deep Sea Aquatic scales. So we've got some teal in there, some turquoise, some blacks, some grays, some charcoals. I've got a singular light that sits above this when I film these videos, so you're not going to see the depth that I think a lot of this deserves. But I will say, the beauty in these scales, they're all completely different. Different slice of that techno-carbo, and these things pop in the sun. So you take it outside, which I'm clearly not right now, you see all the layering, you see all the colorways, and furthermore, you get a knife that's completely yours, and there's none like it on the market because they're all unique. Inside that, you can see all the, I almost call it like fingerprint milling. It's very, very minimal detail. I shouldn't say that. Maximum level of detail, minimum level of kind of like the bit, what's the word I'm looking for, tolerances. It's micro milled even on top of this, and you can see all that detail. As if it was made out of titanium, this would be gorgeous to see in person with that same level of patterning. It's kind of rippled around the pivots, etc. Oh, stunning. It's almost like a wave that kind of rolls down the Aquatic scale, and it's not exclusive to the Aquatic. This is, you know, the Terrace, the Ignis, and the the Arum. They all have the same patterning, so you'll have the I think it's 5 dimples up top here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dimples on both sides. Both the show side as well as the non-show side, you'll have those 5. And then you get all that rounding where you see all the layering inside that Technocarbo. Just looks terrific. You have the lines on the 111 itself that are similar across the Gen 5 ones. All very, very, very nice to look at. The flipper tab itself, you can see, is forward of center. You know, some of the other knives we've had come through aren't all forward of center. Some are kind of dead center, some are back from center. The more far forward you put that flipper tab in front of the center point of that pivot, the more this thing hammers out. And this is no exception. It pops, which is kind of by design, given that it's a longer blade. It's a thick-ish stock, but thinner for a 111. I think this is the same dimensionally as a 5.1. I'd have to get some calipers in check, but it's a nice thick blade stock for certain. So with that flipper tab being forward of center, obviously it flies right out, no problem. Couple other little details we can kind of notice here. So on the Gen 5 one, the window or the cutout on the blade is a little different on this in that it does not step down. Some of the other ones had a little more detail, I'd say, on the blade in the middle there, because they kind of hollow it out and leave like a tab almost on the inside. This one is more designed, I think, to get your finger in there and crack it open. It gives you a little more room to reverse flick, and I don't know if you can actually thumb flick this. The detent's pretty hard, but in theory, I guess you could, because it's a little more aggressive on the inside of there. So that's kind of the point of that. We've got a anodized backspacer in that nice blue colorway, the deep sea blue, aquatic blue, looks great, which should match the clip, and that gorgeous limited edition bead. Yes, we are correct, we're all matching. And let's take a look at that bead actually. While it's here, let's not flick it too far around. One of the beauties of these special edition series is when they do come with these beads, people will collect these beads as much as they collect the knives themselves. And I don't know how much I can get in here detail-wise without kind of bumping everything around. In 4K, you can see we've got lots of waves on here. It's just a unique Shirogorov bead. And the fact that it's anodized and matched color-wise to the entire knife itself is just it's a really big win. The hardware is the standard Shirogorov hardware. Remember, it's still a production knife. So you kind of get that stone-washed hardware look, which looks really good and matches everything blade-wise. That clip is also, like I said, anodized and is a standard clip. Looks really good, very practical, good lengthwise, and not a whole lot is actually going to be sticking out of your pocket on this, which is not necessarily a bad thing to have a little bit sticking out of your pocket because it is a longer blade, longer knife. You know, if it was a true deep carry clip, you just have more knife in your pocket. So you're still looking at, geez, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch out of this guy, which is perfectly ideal, in my opinion. I believe, you know, without going into too much detail, this guy is on MRBS, which I was going to say I believe would be in here, but I think that's not where they put it. It's on the tab, I think, on these. Yes, I'm right. I believe they are here. MRBS, multi-row bearing system on the apron lock, or on the tab. Really nicely done. Multi-row bearings, if it's your first time with Shiros, that's their high-end production bearing system, which is actually found on some custom division knives, which is a tier up from these, as well as the full custom, which is a tier up from that. With a few exceptions, obviously. Those are typically full roller bearing setups or double row roller bearings in the customs. But MRBS, instead of it being a standard ball on a track in a circle, it's kind of 3 balls like one next to another in a pinwheel pattern around. And that actually adds side-to-side stability between the blade and the handle itself. So it's not just for smoothness of the blade, it actually is practical in that it adds a lot of load capability sideways on the knife. Very practical. It's MRBS. And they are loose balls as well, so it's easily serviceable. And they're built in a way, I'd have to check this particular model, but they typically stack them so that you can kind of build the knife, put the balls in, put the blade in, and you're not having to sandwich loose balls, is what I'm trying to get at there. On the inside of these, we shouldn't have any milling, but you never know. Yes, none, which is, it's carbon fiber. Why would you be doing a ton of micro milling on the inside of carbon fiber? It makes no sense, especially if the balance is good. As you can kind of see, we've got the anodized backspacer underneath with it pinned on the handle there. That's your hardware coming through here, and I believe down here. Yep, there it is. So that's what's kind of all holding it together. Looks really good. I don't see any gaps. On the lock side, you can kind of see that the tab lock, if we can get some light in there, the tab lock on the left side of the knife here, there's a little bit of milling to take some weight reduction and some pockets out of there. But on the carbine itself, not necessarily super well needed, but it is gorgeous when you guys open one of these up. Regardless of model, it doesn't have to be the Aquatic, but just in general, production Shirogorovs are some of the most gorgeous and well put together and well displayed internally knives on the market. When you open them up, they're just incredible works of art and certainly worthy of that price tag. They recently actually just at Blade Show Atlanta just got the, I believe, the production quality of the year award as well. So they're pumping some volume out in certain models, and notably the Q95 recently. That's a high production knife, and they're able to maintain a very high level of quality, which is so cool. I guess leading into that, we're talking volume. I don't know the exact number of these that were launched in years past, because typically they're special editions. They number, notably like, the Luxas and all the other ones there. In recent collaboration pieces, they're obviously individually numbered. These are not. So in the F3 series of the Elements, there were 100 each. That's what I've been told. And they split those across between North America and elsewhere in other markets. So in North America, I don't know how Shiro kind of breaks that ratio down. No one really does, other than probably Shirogorov and maybe the people importing them. But this particular one, I can only assume there's 100 of each for the same series. Although when they are pumping up custom division numbers to 100, my guess is, I'm curious if these follow suit and maybe go to another 50 to make it 150, maybe 200. Like I said, I have no confirmation on that. All I know is that in the past, they've been 100 of each, so it'd be kind of cool if they did number them, but beggars can't be choosers. On the actual knife itself, in hand, I'm an extra large glove, which you guys, if you've been following me for a while, you'll know. And I can almost fit 2 extra whole fingers on here, which tells me if you wear this or use this with like a glove, etc., as a work knife, it's just very practical, and you can certainly and use it as such. There's lots of room. And if you look at kind of how the handle ergonomics of it sweep down, it's not really locking you into any hold position. It's very open. You can kind of slide forward, slide back, wear a glove, don't wear a glove. It fits all the same, which is really nice. The jimping on the blade matches the backspacer, which you can kind of see here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cuts. And obviously there's more on the backspacer, but the spacing, maybe I'll hold it this way. The spacing on that jimping and the backspacer looks to be identical. So that's a real nice little feature. And I love how Shiro has kind of been doing that for a while. With, once again, a few exceptions. They kind of bounce between a couple of different things, but on their special editions and all the 111s, etc., and the F95s, they kind of just match the two up, which is just really nice. On the blade itself, it's pinched down the middle, as you can kind of see. I believe that's the same for all of them. And then I think it swells out at the tip. It does, yeah, to add a little stability down at the end. quite nice. And you can absolutely go from jimping, you can move forward for fine slicing tasks. Doesn't really matter a whole lot. It all kind of works out nicely. Gosh, looking at this thing, just all those lines in this Technocarbo just look so good. It's all nicely milled and rounded, and there's just a lot more pop of teal on this than I was expecting, which is a good thing. Just gorgeous. Oh, I can get lost in these. We have the ability to, obviously, from the side, it looks like it's a closed off knife in terms of the lanyard hole, but obviously because it comes with a lanyard on there, there's an opportunity if you wanted to take this off and run any lanyard, leather, etc., you could. I will say, don't just cut these lanyards off if you luck into getting a special edition knife. Untie it nicely and put it in the box and keep it. Don't just get rid of it, because that'll depreciate it by usually a few $100 by cutting that lanyard bead off. The bead, like I said, people collect those and they're worth quite a bit, so don't just throw that out either. I know people take them off because they just don't want it rubbing on the frame in the pocket, but honestly, I like it how it is. It looks great. Requirements to take these guys apart for servicing, yes, you can use a penny if you wanted to. If you're getting one of these guys, I would just say, you know, get the Shirogorov tool, take it apart that way. Pretty simple. Don't mar up the bits, don't mar up the hardware. But you could use like a credit card if you really wanted to, which I don't suggest or recommend. Centering on this guy is right bang in the middle, which is why Shirogorov wins quality control awards. It's just a well done, well designed, well manufactured knife. A couple things underneath that clip. You can kind of see little details like this, where in the middle of that clip, see that bulge down the middle? It's a good way to, when you're sliding like a jean pocket in there, you'll see that gap is often the width of the threads on the top of your pocket. So it's just good for holding and retaining your clip in pocket. Just well, you know, they'll lock in under that little lump. Just a really nice little design detail. In terms of, well, how does it fit compared to the rest of the line? Let's grab a couple. It's a big knife, guys, so it's, you know, I could put a small Sebenza next to it, which I will probably, and you guys will be like, oh my goodness. You know, a lot of the videos I watch on YouTube, I watch a lot of knife videos. That's one thing, it's hard to really portray size, true size. So anyway, we'll use some controls. There's your F95, or Hattie, which is a carbon fiber F95. Half tie, Hattie. Stellar, is there room to put that on the top there? The Stellar is their medium size knife. There you go. So 111, F95, and a Stellar, all in the same frame. Super, super cool. In terms of some other big guys, let's grab Quantum. This is a Monkey Edge Frag Quantum. Gorgeous knife. One of the first ones I ever actually tracked down. Grab an Astrum, which a lot of people think the Astrum is the same size as a 111, and it couldn't be further from the truth. Yes, it's got a long blade on it. No, they're not anywhere near the same size in hand. Two completely different knives. To me, the Astrum's a big neon, through and through. We'll grab an RJ Martin. This is a Russian Overkill. Super sick knife, big knife as well. Really, really great knife, actually. Let's do, oh, I already did that one. Let's do a Laksa. This is a Shirogorov Scott Cook, the first integral that Shirogorov has ever made. And I always talk about this in a couple of videos lately. I go, well, if they're gonna make one, I wonder if they'll make another. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a Scott Cook collaboration, but, you know, I would love to see some more integrals because they're just so cool when you're a knife nerd. Shout out knife nerdery. When you're a knife nerd, I just think integrals are just the ultimate in that regard. They're just so cool, being one piece of titanium. And Shirogorov obviously does an excellent job in putting these all together. They're just so interesting and unique. And now, if it wants to focus, I've done a whole video on this knife, so if you guys want to check that out, but they're getting hard to find. And they were a little easy for maybe a month, and then now they're starting to kind of be tough ones. We will do this is the fat strip, and just a cool, completely different knife than the fit strip. What I love about this one and why I've kept one is that it's a short knife, but it's fat and girthy, and it's just the opposite of the Astrum to me, right? The Astrum is thin and long spec-wise. This is the opposite. It's short and stumpy and just unique. 5mm blade. The last time Shirogorov used a 5mm thick blade stock was on the F95 Icebreaker, which is a super cool Arctic mission knife, and one of my favorite F95s they've ever done, just from a milling perspective, and plain Jane tie. It's just a cool knife. Hard to find as well, but that was the last time they used 5mm blade stock, until they did the fat strip on this, which is MagnaCut, and really cool compound grind. Did another hour or so video on this knife. So cool. So cool. Also a tab lock, which is awesome. What else am I forgetting here? We could do a bio, sure. Let's do the Bio Dark. There you go. Sinkovich collaboration piece. Kind of made to look like the bones of a rib cage. If you look down it, you can kind of see it. As I move it around, you can see like the ribs and the vertebrae, etc. It's kind of cool. They make this in a light and a dark, and I kept the dark. It just looks really cool, but I really miss the light. Really great looking knife. And then other than other Shiros, we could do, here's a custom division F95, one of the classic knives before they actually started numbering each knife. In terms of out of 30, out of 50, they were just doing a general count up. So this is an F95 NLCD. They're not worth a ton, but at the same time, they're just kind of cool. They just have that cool factor to them. Let's grab Stang Bladeworks Pyrenees, also super sick. Shout out to Derek Stang, he's out of Canada, banging out some really cool mid-techs, just trying to show some bigger knives, which is a great looking big guy, and just low volume, really cool, well-made knives. I did a video on this knife, this exact knife as well, and that's my style, right? Plain Jane with a little pizzazz to it, so super cool. Put that one away, and we'll grab a Zon, and we'll have to reset this because my big old hand can't seem to knock things, or not knock things. So there's an Num Zon. By size comparison down the pivot lines, there you go. So how small does the Zon look comparatively? Just to show how big the 111 is, but in hand, truly, it's not manageable, I should say. And then just because for laughs, we're going to grab the small Sebenza and just put that right here. And guys, everybody loves the small Sebenza, but this is just not even a close comparison. Like, to illustrate how big this knife is, this whole knife is like the handle. You know, the 111 blade is bigger than the handle of the Sebenza, small Sebenza. Just think about that, guys. It's a beast. It's an absolute beast. Or the small Sebenza is not a beast. Two ways of looking at it, I suppose. I think that's all we're going to show. We could do an F95 Bears as well, bronze. I have one of those sitting beside me. So there's your F95 Bears. And what I also want to show is the closed handle on these and how it's truly not as big as you'd think. So there you go. In hand, there's your F95 and there's your 111. Do you see what I'm kind of trying to get at here? Like closed blade, because of how much blade they have and how well they fit them into the handle. They're truly not all that different. They just have more blade. So if you can pocket an F95 and like it, and it's no real issues, then a 111 Aquatic, you're not going to have any issues carrying this guy around. Just keep that in mind. In terms of weight, I'm sure I'm 20 minutes in, so I've got to probably start getting a move on here. Let's get a weight on this guy. I can't really remember what they used to weigh in at, but remember the bead does add a few grams, not a ton, but it does add a little bit. So let's zero this off. I'm gonna guess 5. Make sure that bead's hanging on. 5.2. Haha. Make sure it's 0. 5.1. Okay, somewhere low 5s. Okay, come on. I do these videos essentially live. I don't cut the content very much unless I drop something or have a screaming child. But guys, come on. You got to give me credit there. I guessed 5, and here we are, 5.1, 5.2 with a bead. That's pretty darn good. Give me credit where credit's due. Normally, if you've watched the channel long enough, I'll guess 5 and it's like 9.5 ounces, or I'll guess 3 and it's 5. So I'll take these small wins when I can get them. Now the question is this. So that will wrap up the Element series. So we have the Terrace, which is an S90V. We have the Terrace is Earth. Arum, which is, I believe, Wind, which is LMAX. Ignis, which is Fire, which was M390. And now Aquatic, which is Water. And Vanax is the blade there, which is very fitting because Vanax is essentially rust proof, right? And that's why, you know, if you have followed Shirogorov on Instagram or Facebook, you'll have seen them having this knife running under a stream as their preview for release prior to launch. They had that in a stream. So Vanax essentially does not rust. A lot of diving knives are made of Vanax. It's a very, very stainless steel. So, you know, if history repeats itself, like it did with the F3s, the Aquatics were worth the most of that series because Shirogorov doesn't really use Vanax ever. And when they do, it's, you know, I can think of a couple knives off the top of my head, some F95s very, very long ago in the custom division line. I can think of some show pieces that had some Vanax on it in Russia. And I can think of the F3 in Vanax. And was there a Sinkovich? I think there was a Sinkovich collaboration that was in Vanax as well. But what I'm trying to say is they don't use it very often. So when they do, they tend to be worth quite a bit. And in this case, this will be the jewel in the crown of the Element series because it's Vanax. So pretty cool. And it just so happens that obviously, in my opinion, it's one of the better looking ones as well. Although, man, that Arum looks so good too. And the fact that the Arum has the LMAX on it, which a lot of people perceive as a lower steel, it's really not. The Arum has that really cool kind of polished backspacer on it, whereas this one's just anodized. So maybe on the Arum they upped the quality of the backspacer in exchange for a different blade steel. I don't know. They did the same thing in the F3 series on the Arum as well. Ignis looks really good. Red and black isn't always my thing, but had a punch of orange and yellow in it. Looked really, really good. Terrace brown, sand color, really cool as well. But there's nothing that ever beats blue and black with a little teal. It just really, really pops. And it's just such a good looking knife. And the fact that it has Vanax. Oh, I just don't know how it's not going to be one of the knives that is just the most desirable of the series. Plain and simple. So, great knife. Really, really good. And a good looker too. I love that blade cutout, how you can kind of see through it. That's my Instagram shot right there. Bloop. Gorgeous. What else would I change on this one? Well, not a whole lot. I'm not a blade or a knife designer. I wish there were more availability on the Shirogorov tools so more people could take these apart and experience how gorgeous they are inside. If I could change anything, I wish I could change more availability on some of the pen tools and the cyber tool. That'd be great. But they're easy to work on. They're a lot simpler than you'd expect. And sometimes the old saying, KISS, keep it simple, stupid, certainly applies to a lot of the knives we feature on this channel. And I just noticed this. I've never actually noticed this. On the backspacer on the inside, I don't know if you can see inside, if the camera's going to focus too much. There's a gap right where my finger is, about the thickness of my whole finger there, on both sides of that spacer. And it just kind of overhangs out into the middle of the knife. I've never noticed that till now. Is that new? See how they've milled and they've beveled that backspacer down the middle, and there's a little gap on both sides. I've never noticed that. Huh. Just goes to show, you always pick up something when you're sitting here looking at a 2-inch screen with a camera recording. Oh boy. And another thing that I wanted to point out on the last video, which I think was it the Ignis? I think they did Terrace, Arum, Ignis, and then this, or did they do Arum last? I can't really remember the order at which they launched this series a little different and a little backwards of the F3 series, so I always confuse the two. So I brought this up in the last video, and I don't think I ever got an actual answer. What is this for? Okay, we've got kind of some jimping on this part of the blade here that you can't really flick it out from there. Like, you can't get in there and utilize it for grip. When the blade opens up, watch where it goes. It goes inside the handle on the inside here. So it's not usable when the blade is deployed. What is that for? Is it so if you drop it, maybe it sticks out from the handle so it doesn't chip the carbon? That's the only thing I can kind of think of why that's there. The back of the handle also has some cutouts in it there on the backspacer, so you know, you could potentially use that as, I don't know, maybe a glass breaker. Maybe it's just to hold your thumb on top of it when you're holding it in reverse grip as well. But that's also there. It's also obviously to grip the inside of your palm. But this, you don't really use anything there. And I don't know. I'd be curious why that's there. If anyone has any idea, leave it in the comments. It's pretty simple, and I like to have a bit of an encyclopedia of ideas on some other designs. They obviously do these things very intentionally. So anytime there's something there that I don't know about, I want to know why. God, that's gorgeous. And those bearings are just silky. Silky, silky smooth. The whole point of that, by the way, is you can park it at a weird angle and it doesn't drop, right? Until you give it a little bump, and then it'll kind of float home once you break them in, obviously. This being nowhere near broken in. It still has the factory kind of waxy grease on it. Gorgeous. Light lockup as well on all of them. Very nice. And you can kind of see some cutouts in that blade on the inside. Ooh. And you can see that MRBS a lot better actually from this angle. MRBS. And what a looker. The details on this lock bar just look incredible in person. And it is raised. I always like to show this. You forget. When that lock bar is raised compared to the other side, your thumb finds it so much easier. And there's cutout on this side too, eh? I don't know if they've always had that beveling on both sides. So anytime you bevel the opposite of a lock bar like that, it makes it feel a lot thinner inside. A lot easier to access. This being no exception, that's very comfortable. Very, very comfortable. I also like how the flipper tab, the jimping on that kind of ramps up too on the inside so you don't kind of slip forward and into the cutting edge. That's a nice little detail as well. They're so deliberate with a lot of these things. Let's see, is there any beveling behind the, no beveling behind the flipper tab, just nice and smooth and rounded edges. Just kind of what you'd expect of Technocarbo. And then that detail on that, how about that? It just doesn't get old, eh? Just does not get old. We still have the Shirogorov bear on the blade, so I guess this is going back to things I would change. I wish the Shirogorov bear was not on the blade path. You know, you can't always get the blade steel off the blade. Even on their custom divisions, they're still doing that, so I don't think that's something they'll ever do. But if we take a look at my Astrum one more time, I can show you, this is just kind of what they're starting to do more of, is if you take an Astrum, look at the blade, right? No bear. And on the Stellar as well, they've just moved it onto the handle, which is just a really nice detail, right? It's not in the cutting path, it's not going to get worn off, and it's more timeless, in my opinion. On a carbon fiber knife, a little harder to do. It's a little harder to put that bear off of the blade and onto the heel of the blade of the handle here. If we look at the Stellaris, they did it there, but they had to epoxy in a titanium plate into the handle, which, you know, if you're talking about doing that on 100 to 150 knives, I don't know the number they did, or just in general, let's blanket this statement across the Gen 5.1 or Gen 5.2, etc. moving forward. It would just be another probably, you know, several $100 additions to the consumer to have that plate epoxied on the bottom there. So I could kind of see why maybe they're not as gung-ho about doing that. So maybe it's just not that important. But everything else, oh, a home run is always, Shirogorov. A home run is always. Just doesn't get any better than this for production knife. And they just never seem to get old. Stunning. Well, I don't have a whole lot else. I'm probably running over half an hour, which is kind of my cutoff that I like to kind of wrap things up at the latest for. So, yeah, what do you guys think? Shirogorov 111 Deep Sea Aquatic or Aquatic Deep Sea, I can't really remember what order they put that in, with Vanax 37 blade, super limited, with that gorgeous matching bead to match the back spacer as well as the clip. Beautiful. You know, these are going to be tough to find. Fast forward 2-3 years from now, even look at the F3s, they're hard to find in the aquatic configuration in mint. This is the, I said it earlier, this is the jewel in the crown of the 111 Elemental series, and they're going to be hard to get. I can already tell you. I know the collectors, I know a lot of them, are already talking about this knife being one that if they were going to grab a single from the series and keep it, it's going to be this. So, gorgeous knife. It's cool that they kind of left the cherry on top till the end of the series. And the fact that it's a 111 just makes it even that much more cool that it's essentially a sword that folds out from a Techno Carbo handle in a limited edition. So, so cool. Oh boy, I could talk about this knife all day long. But I won't, because we're already probably well past everyone's bedtime or their morning coffee break has already ended. So I apologize if I ran long today. Check me out on the website, BladeZilla.ca, TikTok. Obviously, you're on the YouTube now. So throw a thumbs up on the video every Monday and Thursday, 7 a.m. Eastern, twice a week, full-length videos. Instagram, Threads, Facebook, you name it, I can be found pretty easily. And just love chatting blades. That's my passion. So the fact that I get to go on here a couple days a week and talk about blades and show some really sick knives is just, it's not even work. It's so much fun to me. And glad that I can chat, have a coffee with you, and share that enthusiasm, hopefully, with a little more energy in the coming months, as my little one here is 2 weeks old beside me. So the energy's a little thin, but it's great to kind of get a little more energy back when some of these cool special editions roll through. So pretty stoked on that. If you have any questions, yeah, leave them below. Otherwise, we will chat with you next week or later in the week, or we'll find you on the next one. Appreciate it as always, guys, and talk soon. Peace.